Hey y'all, it's Am Bam. You know what time it is? It is almost spooky time. So we're going to try this new product and I'm going to do a tutorial for you and show you how to do a simple and realistic SFX makeup for your Halloween look. So if you are new to me, hit that plus, subscribe, and I'm going to show you and teach you what I've learned as a self-taught makeup artist. I do regular makeup, creative makeup, and special effects or SFX makeup. So let's go ahead and do a simple cut. We're going to try this new liquid latex by LANCI, link in bio, and I'll have it in my storefront. So let's get started. Here are some of the items you're going to need to create this look. So first, you're going to want a makeup sponge that is disposable, and I cut it in half. This is a specific sponge for applying fake blood. This little clear plastic thing is actually just a lid to an eyelash thing. They're super handy, so I keep them to use for this kind of stuff. Fake blood, which I actually have a fake blood kit from LANCI, which I have pictured in the back. If y'all want to see that, let me know and I can do a follow-up video. But I love scab gel because it is thicker and it's just easier to apply, not super runny. I'm going to have a tissue, which I'm going to separate so I have the thinnest layer to use to apply with the liquid latex. Some setting powder, which I'm going to use LANCI Cosmetics, and then some foundation, and then we may use a few other items, but that's to get started. So I'm going to do this on my arm and show you all and walk you through it. To start, you're going to separate your tissue. So see how you have one that is super, super thin. This is what you want to use. With liquid latex, it is so important to have thin layers. So the thicker the material, the less real-like it's going to be. Then if you're going to use strips of it, then you just tear gently, and you can create strips as thick or thin as you'd like, and then you can always tear it apart. I went ahead and poured a little bit of liquid latex into my container. Quick tip, number one, put your lid on your liquid latex and seal it as soon as possible. Work in small batches because it dries quickly, and if you leave the bottle open, it will ruin the texture. Second, you want to make sure that you are testing it on a small patch. So we're going to do a test on my arm today because this is my first time using this particular one, and I want to make sure that I don't have a reaction before using it on my face, my chest, my body. And then lastly, just know that liquid latex has a very distinct smell, so don't be alarmed when you first use it. Once you use it, you know, but it definitely does not smell wonderful like roses and sunshine. But I mean, we're here to look a little spooky, so it's okay. So next we're going to go ahead and take our sponge, our disposable sponge, dip it into our liquid latex, and we're going to go ahead and make a kind of like a open wound type of shape, like an oval. So I'm just going to lay down kind of a base layer to start, very thin. Again, thin layers is the key, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be precise. That is the beauty of special effects. Now there are certain parts that are, but this initial phase can be kind of fun. Then I'm going to take my tissues and I'm going to lay them out in a shape kind of outlining a wound. And the cool part is if you go outside of where you're at, you can just pull and it tears the tissue. This is again just the base layer. Then we're going to add more liquid latex. We're typically going to do 2 to 3 layers depending on what you're wanting to accomplish. And then you will let it dry in between layers. So I'm just kind of showing you the first layer. This is kind of roughly where I want it to go. And then again, I'm going to take my liquid latex and I'm going to go over the tissue to secure it and gently go around. So let me finish that. So here is about 2 layers down. You have to let it dry really, really good in between. So I'm going to let it dry and I'll come back and we'll go to the next step. The first 2 layers are totally dry, and you can tell because it is now clear and no longer opaque. It will still be sticky, so be careful. We're going to take our sponge and do just 1 more layer to, again, make sure that it is nice and sealed and blended into our skin. So I'm going to go ahead and just dot that along the edges and add 1 more layer. Again, nice thin layers is super key. All right, so I'm going to let that dry and then we'll go to the next step. Now that it's dry, I'm going to gently take tweezers, which I have these plastic ones, which work really well. And I'm just going to gently tear the center, but I want to be careful not to disturb the outside in just the center. And if I need to, I'll take I have some small scissors that I use. And the whole idea is just to lift it gently along the edges. I'm going to cut this part because otherwise it'll rip. But just so you can see I have this like open area in the center where I can make my wound. Once that's done, I go in with the sponge one last time and I just add some underneath and then along the edges to make it look a little bit more lifelike. And so that way it still connects to the skin and it'll get a little bit underneath the layers to make it more wound-like. And I like to add a little bit in the center because that'll help when we add our fake blood towards the end. So just like that. So let's let that dry and then we'll start the shading. Now that it's dry, I'm going to take my translucent powder and I'm going to go all over to basically set it. And that way it's not sticky, and this will make it easier to apply your foundation and do your shading. So now if you look, it's now blended into my skin and it's no longer as shiny. Next, we're going to take our foundation and go all over the area and blend it into your skin. Now, I'm using just one that I had in my drawer that's older. It's oxidized a little bit, but again, I'm just going to tear this off, and it's just for the purpose of teaching you all. So use whatever foundation matches you and just blend it into your skin. So for the shading, I'm going to use a bruise wheel, which is by Mayron, and then just a fluffy brush. So I like to go into typically red first, and I'll go in, of course, the center, because that's where all the red is going to be. And this is where, again, you don't have to be super neat. And yes, there's an art to it, but it's more the detail is in the little crevices and making sure that you're, in a sense, dry brushing them. So see how I'm not using any more product. I only dipped into it once. It is a cream based and it blends super well. Now you can use eyeshadow for this, but I'm telling you that it takes you a lot longer. And when I switched to a bruise wheel, it was such a game changer, and it cuts down on the time that it takes me to shade and blend and put all the detail in. So I highly suggest investing in a bruise wheel. I have this also linked in my storefront. I have a whole category for creative makeup because I get so many questions from people on what to use and how to make it easy. So see, now that I have the red, it already looks amazing, but I'm going to go in with a little brown and a little black. I kind of like to mix the two, and then I'm going to go along the edges and more focus on the outer. I don't know why, but I just like blending the two. I feel like brown isn't dark enough and black is too dark. So see, like right there, I don't like that, but I'll blend it out and it's okay. I'll just add a little more brown, and it's very forgiving because again, it's cream based and you're going to blend it out. So you're just going to go ahead and blend along the edges until you're satisfied with it. So let me go ahead and keep working on it, and I'll come back and then we'll do the last step. So last step is adding the blood. So I'm going to go ahead and put some in the very center. So I forgot to mention the first step, I used a Q-tip to apply the initial blood. And then I'm taking my, I forget what it's called, but it's kind of a steeple brush that used for applying fake blood. And it gives kind of a splatter effect. So now I'm just going to go in all over and be generous, but go little by little. So we're going to just dab all over. And then I'm going to get it to the desired, I guess, bloodiness that you want. Then I'll go back in with my Q-tip, and then if I want to add any more layers, detail, etc. And here's the final look. Let me know what y'all think and what you want to see next. And again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and have a great day all.